Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited about our next guest because, okay, so my oldest daughter, her birthday is on April 19th, but there's something more exciting on April 19th, and that's because we're going to have a new release from the one and only That Jamieson. How are you?
I'm doing well, and early happy birthday to your daughter. I'm going to send her a free copy of No Sleep Til McSorley's just in time for her birthday.
Nice. She'll love it. I think she was with me one time when I saw you at a festival. I'm pretty sure because I do all the festivals.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, we're at Metal Festival, but we got to check out some comedy.
Where was that?
I don't remember. Maybe it was Rock on the Range, I think.
Yep, that was probably it. Yeah. They used to do the comedy tent there. And they've changed that now. It's called Sonic Temple.
Yeah, we're actually doing ticket giveaways for Sonic Temple, but you know, I do kind of miss the Rock on the Range days, and I do miss that comedy tent because that was cool as hell, and it was always so busy. Like, I love combining both parts of the world in there. And you know, back in the day, you couldn't even combine one type of metal with another type of metal, much less put comedy in there or anything. So that's what's way cool about today.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's my whole career. What career there is to speak of, but my two worlds, the two things I've loved my whole life is, you know, hard rock, heavy metal, and comedy. You know, and to be able to mix those two worlds is incredible. And it's people are way more accepting now. You know, people don't. You know, even at festivals, you see sometimes it's a weird lineup, or even some of the tours that are out now, they go, that's a strange lineup. But I think it's better that way because then you don't get bored. You don't want the same, you know, three bands, one after the other playing. You know, I just saw Burning Witches, LA Guns, KK's Priest, and people are like, why are the LA Guns on there? They're not metal. And yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, we need a little break. You need a little break. They're going to kick ass. They're probably heavier than you remember, but no, we don't want three power metal bands in a row. So to me, like, they were the perfect fit there. And when I go out on the road and open for bands, people seem, you know, for the most part, pretty okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is better to have that like mixture. I think the hardest thing for somebody like you, though, and I wanted to ask you is, nowadays, what's it like being a comedian? Because I think to myself, man, that's a hard job now, because before you used to just, as a comedian, offend everybody. And now, I don't know, that seems a little harder.
It's exactly what this album is all about. So people will get, you know, I tackle all the craziness and all the things that trigger people. I tackle on this album, but without being the get off my lawn guy, right? That's right. The last thing I want to be. I don't want to be, you know, no crowd wants to be lectured to who they're supposed to vote for or how they're supposed to feel. But I just want people to laugh, but we have to talk about the complete insanity in this world. And because, you know, I doing comedy is great. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst, but I've saved a lot of money on therapy over the years.
Right. And then you take music too. I always say music's the best therapy, and so is laughter. So like when you combine the both of them, when you can mosh and laugh at the same time, that might get rid of all mental issues.
Yes, and that's why we all lost our minds during COVID, because we had nowhere to get that aggression out, to get all that anxiety out. That was the worst part of it. But yeah, man, without shows, without the live performance, it's just tough. You know, we depend on that, and the last part of the album is basically called Music is the Healer. And so when I talk about all the crazy stuff in the world, the Hollywood phonies, the politicians, it all culminates into a happy ending, which is, put your faith in rock and roll. And I love that that's the happy ending at the end of my set.
I love that too, man, because listen, we are so polarized in this world right now. And to me, when I go to a metal festival or anything comedy, I think that's the place where we all unite. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're from.
Yeah, Carlin said it the best. He said, the comic's job is to find the line and then keep going over it. And, I feel that way, man. Like with anything, you just got to grow over the years, and you can still be edgy. You can still get away with a lot of stuff, but it's almost like you have an extra layer of comedy now when you perform, because you have the main joke that everyone's going to laugh at, but then there's always that little message that's underneath that not everybody catches. But if you do, it's great, because I want to be able to make fun of Gen Zers and millennials, old people, young people, white, black, but without them feeling self-conscious about it, that we can all laugh at what's funny about us as human beings. So like I said, I don't want to be the get off the lawn guy, but there's a lot I have to get off my chest, and it's all on this record.
And what is the feedback that you are getting from your audience these days from taking that sort of viewpoint?
Everything on this album has been battle tested for the last couple of years. So, when I talk about trans people, I've done it in front of trans people, and they've come up to me after the show and bought all my merchandise and followed me on social media. If I talked about LGBTQ, all those people come to my shows and they laugh at all that stuff. The Gen Zers, I had a table a couple nights ago, all 23 years old, and they had tears streaming down their face. I go, you realize I just made fun of your exact, age group for the last 10 minutes. And they go, we know, we suck. So that's what it's about. It's like, we have to, as humans, be able to laugh at ourselves. And so this material is not, there's no hate in it. It's all love.
I love it. And I love the name of the album, and then you start off with a Phil Campbell intro and No Sleep Till McSorley's, which is like the oldest bar in New York ever. So it's like paying homage to two legends, McSorleys and Lemmy.
Well, you know what? You're the first person to kind of put it that way, and I appreciate it, because, McSorleys is a place I've been going to for decades. Just as a place to meet up with friends so we don't lose touch. People have families, they move into the suburbs, they get different jobs or whatever. So McSorleys was always that place, like, hey, you in town? Let's go to McSorleys. And I was sitting there thinking, like, God, I got to record a new album. This was back in the summertime, and I was racking my brain, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I should just do it right here, even though they'd never done shows in there before. And within an hour of day drinking, I had the whole concept, I had McSorley sign off on it. I had got permission from Motorhead to use the logo and the artwork. I texted Phil about doing the guitar intro. I renewed my deal with Metal Blade, and so it just seemed like it was meant to be. And I'm so glad I did it there, because, this is humor for beer drinkers and hellraisers. I
love it. And then I absolutely love that you've gotten back together with, I'll say, the boys, and you do That Rocks, because I personally miss that metal show. And man, I was watching a bunch of those episodes on YouTube, and I think everybody's got to check it out, whether you watched that metal show way back when, or you're just watching this for the first time. I think it's still like killer talent, killer entertainment. And how did that all come about?
What, the new version?
Yeah.
So, basically, people obviously still to this day, after we've been off the air for like 7 years, But we know how loyal, rock and metal people are. And so,
Totally.
people always come up and say, hey, when are you guys going to get back on TV or whatever? And, but in about the last 3 or 4 years, what I've been getting the most is 22, 23-year-old kids come into like my stand-up shows and stuff and go, oh my God, I watched you when I was 11. And I'm like,
Wow.
what? And they say, yeah, I used to watch with my dad or my mom and dad. And now they're young people and they love this type of music. So, I finally said to the guys, let's see if we can team up with somebody and just make it happen on our own. Anything in my career personally is something I've went for, that I got, that I took action on. I never sat back and waited for anything. And so we hooked up with these young guys who all they do is produce stuff like this, streaming content. And, that we came up with the name That Rocks because it wasn't the first choice, believe me, but it was the one that was available, and that we could trademark. So I've now had two TV shows with the same other two guys with two names that I don't like at all, but it doesn't matter as long as we're doing our thing. But for people who saw That Metal Show, it's myself, Jim, and Eddie, and it's our new digital version of That Metal Show on YouTube.
Yep, there you go. And so what else do you have coming up as far as live shows? Are you going to be doing festivals this year? What else you got?
I just got done with the Monsters of Rock cruise. Myself, Jim, and Eddie host that every year, and we do comedy shows on there and introduce bands, and that's something steady every year. There's a festival in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, run by the same people as the cruise. It's called the Mountain Music Festival. So we're going to host that again. And other than that, just be on the road doing my live stand-up dates all over the country, man. So if people want to follow me on my social media, I'm on, X and Instagram and Facebook. I put all my gigs up there, and I'll have No Sleep Till McSorley's, which is behind me here. The physical copies of it, if you're like me, who likes a CD or a vinyl, I will have vinyl eventually. Come see one of my live shows and you can pick that up. But in the meantime, you could pre-order it on one of your favorite streaming services. My preference is Apple Music. I don't make anything on Spotify. So if you have Apple Music, hit the button and download it. And even if you don't like it, then you send it to the Pipeman's daughter for her birthday.
Oh, and I know they're going to like it because I was listening to it. And, it's funny. Like, I don't find a lot of comedians funny today, maybe because they are curbing it a little bit. And like right from the get-go, your new album is extremely funny and gets me away from all the bullshit we have to deal with in the world and lets me escape. So everybody's got to check it out and get their own copy, and they'll love it for sure.
Thank you, Dean. That's very cool of you to say. And that's really what it is. A lot of people go, man, the crowds must be tough these days. And I'm like, well, again, I've been doing this a long time. The crowds that come and see me kind of know what to expect. But at the end of the day, it's just about making people laugh. And to be honest, the people, the triggered type of people, they don't come out anymore. So,
yeah,
they stay home and get angry at people on social media.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Speaking of that, I was talking to one of my daughters one day. I'm like, some days I just want to drive down the road, throw my computer out the window, phone out the window, iPad out the window. And she's like, Dad, who you can? You're just as addicted as anybody. I'm like, yeah, but I remember a time when we didn't have it and it was better for sure. And there's good to it now, but it's like, man, I was just talking about this on an interview earlier, talking about the Sunset Strip in the 80s. I'm like, man, thank God nobody's got any record of me on the Sunset Strip in the 80s. And there was no social media, no video, no nothing. So it's like, and I think we had more fun back then too, because instead of living through our devices, we had to actually experience it and remember it in our head, not take a picture so we can remember it later.
Yeah, man. I mostly agree. I mean, stuff like GPS now is unbelievable. Back in the
Hmm.
day, for me trying to get to comedy gigs was just like,
Yeah.
trying to read a map or try to call other comics and say, how the hell do I get to this place? Or you try to call the club and they don't even know there's a comedy show. So there's some great stuff. But I agree, man. Like, can you imagine? The one thing we all loved growing up about Kiss was the mystery
Mm.
of never seeing their face. And you could never do that now because everyone's got a camera in their back pocket. So all they have to do is, oh, that's Gene Simmons. Click.
Hmm.
The mystique is gone already. So you can't have that. And at shows, it's just like you see people and they're filming. And I'm like, if you didn't film or take one photo, you will remember this concert 100 times more vividly.
And they're not even going to look at that video ever again. It's more than likely. It sits in their cloud, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But damn, man, I gotta say, they need to get No Sleep Till McSorley's, and they need to just put their devices away and just listen and disappear and have a great time as they will. Are there any final words you want to leave the listeners with?
Just, I do my albums for a record label called Metal Blade, who have been around almost 45 years now. And they're a big part of my musical DNA from growing up. I mean, they've had, so that's the first label that had Metallica on and Slayer and King Diamond. And, I'm very proud to be a comedian on a heavy metal label. And it kind of pulls the whole picture together for me, and also to pay tribute to my favorite band Motorhead on here means a lot to me. But if you're not a hard rock or metal fan and you're watching this or listening to this, it's what's inside is for everybody. If you get the humor of the packaging and all that, that's a bonus. But what's inside is for everybody, and I hope everybody enjoys it. And really big thanks to you, Dean, for helping to support it, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And I it's funny when I saw that you were on Metal Blade, I'm like, that is really cool. Cause funny, my whole metal career came from Brian Slagle. So I moved from Jersey to LA in 1980. And I used to go to this little record store in the Valley called Oz Records. And there was this store clerk there that used to say to all us, hey, get this album. Hey, get this. And that was Brian Slagle when he first started Metal Blade. And I told him a few years ago, I was like, that was the most brilliant marketing plan ever. He goes, I was just a record store clerk.
He had no idea what he was getting himself into.
No.
I never had any idea what I was getting myself into. I just got up and told some jokes one night, and here it is 24 years later. And as we said at the top of the show, like all my worlds, collided in the right way. I couldn't have planned it better. And Brian Slagle, one of my close friends now, after all these years. And, like I said, I'm grateful to be on there. I'm sure I'm a good tax write-off for the label, but proud to be there nonetheless.
Well, love it and love your comedy, and everybody's got to get your new album, and it drops on the 19th. Thanks a lot for all you do for us, not only in comedy, but in metal and rock and everything else. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Dean, thank you so much, dude. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.